are these people?
You kind of wanted to do this anyway, and considering,
Oh, I'm always down. Always.
The thing is, I'm not. No, you are. I'm not always, because I don't necessarily believe that, especially given like any of this stuff, just as far as the drama. Like I'm just kind of like, when I'm not necessarily for that, but
It's not even the drama. This is a person running for Congress. I mean, president.
True. But my take on this is, and I'll probably get more into it later, but I think my thesis of this whole thing, if you will, is like, don't lie to your audience, and that's what, Vanguard did yesterday. I just happened to be in their stream, because actually I didn't know about this Marianne thing, because I had a tough week at work, so I really wasn't, really on Twitter that much this week, other than, just doing INN news stuff. And when was it? I think it had to be on Thursday. Was it Thursday? It had to be Thursday. I started hearing the murmurs about this. And then, hearing the Vanguard and RBN, was somehow involved. And then I kind of watched what Gavin was doing. Like, he basically was kind of watching the basically the fallout.
Like, they're two totally separate interviews. And the only reason why this is a thing is because the Vanguard involved themselves. They made a video like with the title RBN is clownish.
No, that's the issue that I have with it. It's
they're coming out there
as you're gonna do
save a politician.
Right. If you're going to do commentary, especially if you're going to try and own people, you got to do it properly, which they didn't do. They kind of played the last 5 minutes, and actually I saw the tail end. So what happened was I saw the stream with RBN, saw the tail end of that, when Roman CJ came in, and I guess they kind of cut it to a certain point. I thought that was the issue that the Vanguard started talking about, and people online were starting to talk about it. And then I happened to watch Vanguard, and then I saw, the entirety of, what was discussed after the stream, after Marianne had left, which Gavin was commenting on his own. And then he was like, oh, I'm going to have Zach kind of talk about it later, the next day, which was yesterday, Friday. And then I happened to watch that, and all they were talking about was the last few minutes when RBN crew were talking about it versus the interview itself. So my thing was, if you were going to do that, do it properly. Comment on the interview, because I watched both interviews, and I think Marianne said a lot of interesting stuff that should give huge red flags for people who are even considering, supporting Marianne, that I think should be noted. And the Vanguard didn't do that.
She's not even a good politician. Even if she was your standard politician, she gives me honestly, she says a lot of the spiritual woo stuff that I'm kind of a lot of the Eastern philosophy, kind of meditative mindfulness stuff, which I'm kind of down for. But then she does this really neoliberal Israeli shit where she's openly said that she's for a two-state solution. That's already just one. That's just right. One. That's besides all the other shit. And then on the surface, really, she just gives me AOC vibes. It's really just it's just an older AOC to me. I mean,
right.
And that alone should be guys, and hopefully we can get into this because like there's a specific portion of this, but like guys, like how many times have we done this already? Can we try like Bernie in 2016 is really when I was like kind of like introduced to the whole
Mm-hmm.
thing and when he came to Rutgers. Um,
Right.
then 2020 he ran again, and within that time span, we've also elected a ton of these quote unquote like progressive Congress people
Mm-hmm.
who what have they really done? And are they like they're not even the squad? They're not because they don't vote as a squad. They don't vote as a block or a squad, so they're not really the squad. So what are they? They're just Democrats, right?
Yeah.
Well, how many times do we have to do this over and over and over again until we say, okay, we're going to try a different option?
Right.
Gavin here, he's going to, like, this is the problem. Like, I really think what their issue is that they're, they're sort of like a Joe Rogan esque where they kind of morph into their guest, where they have to like agree with the opinions of the. And this is not like necessarily true for like people who are like in their like not like outside of their clique, like Aaron Mate, for example. But like it's clear that they're having to attach themselves to a very specific audience, which is happens to be like the Sam Cedar, um, Miami Gator types. And
Right.
honestly, like none of this has to do with Jimmy Dore. None of it does. But
No,
it's
well,
just like pure
I,
association. There's like this faction thing going on where everyone's like a tribal fucking maniac. It doesn't make any
well,
sense.
again, but I just feel like, as you were saying, and I'm going to elaborate more on what you said, we've done this experiment twice. We did Bernie in 2016. We did Bernie in
Arguably more
2020.
than twice. But yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
arguably more than twice, but I think as far as presidential, twice.
As far as
You
presidential,
know,
yeah.
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 What makes Marianne think that running in the Democratic Party um, is going to help the left's cause in terms of bringing progressive ideas and legislation, make it a reality when it was very clear, especially from 2020, that if the Democrats don't want something, they will go out of their way to ensure that that happens. Like, Bernie aside, like, and I don't want to necessarily, but look at what happened to Tulsi. Say what you want about her, but she was talking about anti-war, and and they basically changed the rules in as far as, or let me give another example, Mike Gravel. You saw how like they essentially changed the rules, so essentially like he wouldn't be able to debate. You know, the DNC changes the rules constantly to fit, to
All the
have
time.
people who are like somewhat anti-imperialist away from like who they basically select as their nominee. So knowing all of that history, what makes Marianne think that going through the Democratic Party is actually the way to try, as she says, to bring the conversation of these left issues to a high audience? The like like Medicare for all, like it has majority support at this point. I don't know if the exact numbers
The
right now.
majority of Republicans support Medicare for all.
Right. At this point,
It's a
who knows?
bipartisan issue.
Right. But
Bipartisan.
I'm just saying, like, who knows what the numbers are given, like, we're in a pandemic and really mainstream media has basically not touched it, and even the squad has basically not talked about it really, other than maybe the virtual tweet every once in a while. But like health Medicare for all, like $15 min wage, no war, these are popular policies. So we don't need to talk about it. We need to have action on those things. And the fact that Marianne, and I'm not sure if you're going to play this clip, but she basically said to Gavin and Zach, like, oh, I hope that I'll counterpunch, meaning hope I'll counterpunch against Biden in the debate. Like, you want people to support you and possibly give you money in the hope that you're going to call out Biden? Nah. Like, that doesn't sit well with me. Like, you better call him out, or what are you doing this for? You know, is it to elevate your own status or your own brand? That's what I really think it is. It's a vanity project for her.
Yeah. So, and I don't know, like, if you want to get into your super chats first, or if you want to get to that later, but Marianne has specifically said, like, and I'm trying to find the part where the dirty break part. I didn't timestamp it. I'm fucking, but she said that even if she loses, the benefit to her, like in her mind, is that she wants to shift the conversation, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Which is really realistically not what we need right now. And it's not we honestly, we don't fucking have time for that right now.
Mm-hmm.
Where
But
there's like multiple national crises going on both in the world and the United States right now.
right.
And people aren't, warmed up to that idea yet, but some people yeah, let's do
So
this.
why don't you play I think it's important to kind of watch what she said about the dirty break
Yeah, this is it right
on
here.
Vanguard,
I'm
and then
hoping this is
watch what was said on RBN,
either to
because
articulate and effectuate that change.
But it does seem
redoing. I am not part of that game.
Biden, whether it's you or another.
Not enough. Doesn't even.
You mentioned the fact that the Democrats are now basically rigging their primaries, and I think a lot of us became savvy to that fact watching what they did to Bernie Sanders also, as you mentioned. And, Marianne, we asked our audience members some questions that they had for you, and one of the big ones we got from our audience was the idea of, yes, they're excited about you running in the Democratic primary. They want someone to challenge Biden, whether it's you or another progressive. People want that. But there's also an awareness, I think, that the DNC is going to do anything and everything to stop any anti-establishment progressive. I mean, you just accurately described our system as a plutocracy. That's not going to stand in the Democratic Party. Even I still think it's worth pursuing regardless of that fact. But a lot of
why? That's my question. Why?
Right.
Like, listen carefully, because he is he's recognizing the fact that, and both of them are, they're recognizing that we have a duopoly system that where at this point we don't have much control besides organizing, really.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But he says, "Oh, I'm still okay with the Democrat strategy." Why? And I think it's just because she's here, or if he wasn't like friends with Crystal and Kyle.
I just think he kind of said that because I think he just kind of wants to get in her good graces somewhat. Like, he doesn't want to kind of come off as a dick, because it's almost going to be like, why have her on if you're not necessarily supportive of what she does or what she's doing. So, but again, as we said, we know the experiment, like, the Democratic Party is not going to allow Marianne to get far, number one. Number two, and this is something that I thought about earlier today, like, say, like, technically she's exploring the idea. No, if you're doing an exploratory committee, you're running. She hasn't made a formal announcement yet, but that basically is, you're running. Like, where is she going to get her support from? Because is it going to be from Bernie Sanders?
Exactly.
Is it going to be from the squad?
Politically, she is weaker than Bernie Sanders.
Right.
And you want to try that?
Right.
You need
So
if you're gonna do that again, you need something stronger than Bernie Sanders, and Marianne is not it.
right.
She is not it.
Bernie
There's a
has made it
lot of
quite
questions.
clear that he was